Okay, for those of you who have been following along, this video series is to capture my transition from Visual Basic Minitab environment over to the R and F#.NET environment, and to try to collect some feedback from more knowledgeable people along the way. Obviously, if you're interested in R, you're interested in the graphics power of R. And you can see over there in the lower right hand corner of my screen, I've got a mosaic plot. I like the mosaic plots. I think it organizes data very well and it's kind of novel when you throw it up there. Uh, People are interested in how you got it. This particular mosaic plot comes off of the information in the upper left hand side of the screen. That's a data file that I downloaded off of the internet. And it has three factors in it: sex, political leanings in '04, and political leanings in '07. And what I did was I was able to take that object and convert it into a table, feed that into um, mosaic plot, and create the graphic on the lower right hand side. However, I don't always get my data coming in looking like that. Often I get my data coming in looking like this, and that's a data frame. You can see it identified over here, FT, as a data frame. So let's kind of walk through. So given that I often get my data in this format, I was wondering how I was able to use that to create a mosaic tiled like what I have here. Um, there may be a more direct way to go from a data frame to the mosaic plots. About 25 or 30 hours into R, so forgive me if I've overlooked something, but obviously the reason why I'm creating these videos is so people can identify easier and more simplistic or more sophisticated ways of doing what I've achieved. But driving to results is the key here. So if we go through the instructions that I have here, first I created the POL data frame off of this read CSV off of a internet site. I viewed it, then I put it into a table, uh, looked at the table, which I apparently have closed. Excuse me, no. As you can see down here in the console window, okay. Then I uh, made a table of it. That I created a table of it, which fed it straight to the console window. Then I fed it to a um, symbol, tpol, for poll table, and then fed that to the mosaic. Here we have the mosaic. Okay. Then I created the data frame, f of t, which we see here, which again is how I would expect sometimes to get my data. Even if I got it like this, I would want to put it into a mosaic. So um, I may have tried to throw that um, into the mosaic and it spit it out. So uh, I was interested in what tpol has in it, its dimension names. So went and grabbed that information so I can see the factors of the table: female, male, conservative, right, liberal. Okay, so when I look at the fact data frame column, I see female, male, female, male, female, male, just like I see here in the view. Summary: 20 male, 20 female. Okay, when I look at the first item of it, I get levels, female, male, summary, 1 in the female, 0 in the male. Because the class of F, my data frame, my data column, and the first element of my data column is a factor. So as you can see, 1 in the female factor and a 0 in the male factor. Not saying I fully understand that, but that is how the data is stored. And when I try to just extract it, I would get 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, the factor levels as opposed to the factor names. Okay, so for I of the length of the column, z is equal to z, which is a null, f of t x1. Okay, so when I ran that, which didn't, I didn't, oh, okay, so that gave me z. Okay, which I subsequently went and overrode down here. But let me run this guy right here again and show you what I was getting um, when I just tried to access the data element of the data frame and the data column and then the element by its index. Okay, come down here to the bottom. Okay, and you see Z has totally changed. It's 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so thankfully that went away. Okay, so as opposed to that, if I use the function as character, I can get the factor title versus the factor level and outputted for the data frame, data column, female, male, female, male, female, male. So so instead of just going C as blah, 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 I fed it into this for loop to construct a array of Z here. I have a feeling that if I just put this in a C as character F data frame and data column, I might achieve the same thing. So let's try B. And I do. So, so this was a good exercise in using the for loop, but it appears that it wasn't necessary at all. So, uh, generated the for loops, okay? And then here's where I really probably needed the for loop. And that is, I'm going to use this replicate function here to add to my f of c array as many of the rows as are identified by the frequency. So I'm grabbing the frequency, that's W of I. I'm grabbing the row values, ZI, XI, YI, and I'm going to replicate it and add it to my array or my vector, f of c. F of c is null. I'm going to do this 40 times because length of z is 40, and for each one of these I'm going to add a value for that. Okay, and that will create my f of c, which we can see here. See, 639 characters, female, conservative, male, right? So now I have an array. I want to put that into a table, excuse me, a matrix. So I create a matrix, and then I'm going to, into the matrix, I'm going to add f of c, um, which is this 639 element long array. I'm going to create 3 columns, and I'm going to tell it to fill it by row because I want it to go female, conservative, conservative, female, conservative, conservative. Okay, and that created me DFM. So there we go. Now I lost my column names, sex, politics 04, politics 05. But I think I can come in here and identify names with a vector. So that's not a big problem as of yet. So I'm back to a data frame. Okay, well I know that my previous attempts to throw a data frame into this were unsuccessful. So I'm going to take my data frame, am I still in this right spot here, matrix, TM as table. So I created a table, excuse me, TM, um, and then do a mosaic plot. Okay, have I jumped somewhere? Data frame, yep. So I tried to throw the matrix right into a table and then do the mosaic. Did not work. But if I went to the data frame, then my data frame to a table to create TM, I was able to create this plot. Now you can see again, um, my column names are gone, but I did reproduce the mosaic plot. Okay, so what did I achieve here, right? So if I got my data like this, easy enough, throw that information into a table, throw that table into a mosaic plot, you get your mosaic plot. If I get my data like this, however, um, I have to be able to pull that data frame column out by its level name, not its level index. I probably have the terms wrong there. Um, construct a matrix with that, which is here, and then turn that matrix into a data frame, which which looks a lot like this guy, except for very well organized. Uh, with that data frame, create the data table and the data table into my mosaic. So again, probably there are some more sophisticated ways of doing this, and as we saw right here, when I created this value b, I could go straight from the as character function of my data frame column straight to a vector b and skip the for loop. But the for loop was a necessary thing for me to exercise so that I could later come down here and create the array that would ultimately be fed into my vector because I needed wi, this frequency here, to feed my replicate. Okay, so I hope I was helpful here in identifying that the columns of a data frame are stored as factors. To get the factor information out, you have to go, a way of getting it out is to go through the as character function. You can turn your frequency into a matrix row by using the for loop. Now, what we did lose here is, you can see I went from 221 to 213 objects. I lost 8 objects. I actually lost the 8 objects when I created FT, I'm fairly sure also. I'm fairly certain that the reduction in data happened at this step. And if you go to poll, again, which is available through this website, and thank you, calvin.edu, there's NAs. And those are the NAs. There are 8 of those records, and those are the ones that dropped out. So I still obviously have learning to do as to how to conserve that NA information. Now, if I got the information like this, I would just throw it into a table and then throw that into the plot. It's really going from data like this that I'm required all of the manipulation to get from a table, to get from a data frame to a table, back to a data frame, and then back to a table, or a matrix to a data frame to a table. Okay, hopefully I didn't confuse you there at the end. I appreciate your time. Thank you for watching.